Madam Speaker, we are here today for two reasons. One, our constitutional duty assigned to us by the Constitution, and two, to maintain the protections that same document ensures all Americans. First, the Constitution mandates Congress oversee the District of Columbia. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 makes clear Congress exercises, and I quote, exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over the District, close quote, of Columbia. In that vein, Congress passed the Home Rule Act, which gives the district some autonomy. But Home Rule also retains the constitutional duty imposed on Congress to be the ultimate sign-off for all of the district's legislation. That responsibility could not be more important than today. The D.C. Council recently passed legislation that affects the hiring practices of organizations that work to advance certain beliefs. As passed, the bill fails to acknowledge certain long-standing constitutional protections of the First Amendment for political and religious organizations. Because of this, we cannot let this legislation stand. Former D.C. Mayor Vincent Gray requested the council postpone its vote on the bill because of its legal problems. In a December letter of 2014, Mayor Gray explained D.C.'s Attorney General found that the bill, and I quote, raised serious concerns under the Constitution and under the Religious Freedom Restoration Act of 1993. He went on to say, and again, I quote, religious organizations, religiously affiliated organizations, religiously driven for-profit entities and political organizations may have strong First Amendment and Religious Freedom Restoration Act grounds for challenging the law's application to them. Close quote. To remedy these problems, the mayor requested the council include an exemption to protect the religious and political liberty interests that the First Amendment and the Religious Freedom Restoration Act are designed to secure. Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to enter Mayor Gray's December 2nd, 2014 letter to the D.C. Council into the record.
Without objection.
While the council postponed the vote, they took none of the mayor's advice. Once again, Mayor Gray wrote the council again in mid-December voicing his disapproval for the bill. In that letter, he suggested, and I quote, if the council wishes to adopt this bill, it should clarify the D.C. Human Rights Act existing exemption for religious and political organizations to ensure that that exemption protects the religious and political liberty interests that the First Amendment and the Religious Freedom Restoration Act are designed to secure. Close quote. Mayor Gray concluded, and I quote once again, that without this language, I cannot support the legislation and believe that the council would expose the district government to costly legal challenges by moving forward. Close quote. Again, Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to enter Mayor Gray's December 17th, 2014 letter to the D.C. Council into the record.
Without objection.
Despite these warnings, the council and Mayor Bowser ignored the former mayor's request, passed the bill, and sent it to Congress. If they had taken Mayor Gray's advice, we would not be here today. This law is contrary to the federal statute, and the D.C. Council knows it. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act, passed in 1993, prevents the government from creating any law, rule, or regulation that prevents an individual from freely exercising their religion. And based on this mandate, the Supreme Court recently held that certain corporations are not required to provide health insurance coverage for contraceptive methods that violate their religious beliefs. From the way it was drafted, it is unclear if the D.C. bill violates this mandate, making it unconstitutional. And both Mayor Bowser and the D.C. Council know that this is a problem. In fact, In February, Mayor Bowser admitted that the bill was ambiguous and requested that the council pass temporary emergency legislation clarifying that the bill doesn't require employers to provide insurance coverage for reproductive health decisions. Madam Speaker, once again, I ask unanimous consent to enter Mayor Bowser's February the 2nd, 2015 letter to the D.C. Council into the record.
Without objection.
That fix was only temporary and does not address the constitutional concerns I share with Mayor Gray. Given this ambiguity and no permanent fix, the bill is unconstitutional and cannot stand given the recent Supreme Court decision in Hobby Lobby. Protecting the freedoms guaranteed by our First Amendment should not be a partisan issue. Mayor Gray knew this and pointed this out to the council, that it has gone too far. Finally, Madam Speaker, I want to speak directly to the claims that this resolution is somehow an attack on women's health care or their rights to use contraceptives. These attacks are offensive and are patently false. As a registered nurse, I have spent my adult life bringing health care to women, children, and families. This resolution would in no way threaten anyone's access to care or freedom from discrimination based on the use of contraceptives. Rather, it simply maintains the status quo in the Washington, D.C. before this misguided law was passed. Women are already protected from discrimination on the basis of pregnancy status and a number of other fronts through both the D.C. and the federal law, as they should be. Specific to concerns regarding how this would impact women using contraceptives, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission makes clear, and I quote, an employee cannot discharge a female employee, They make clear, and I quote, an employer could not discharge a female employee from her job because she uses contraceptives, close quote. Those protections would in no way be impacted if my resolution were to be signed into law. Madam Speaker, the RHNDA law is fundamentally dishonest. It purports to be a non-discrimination act, but it directly targets the fundamental First Amendment freedoms of employers in our nation's capital, the very city charged with protecting those same freedoms. We must act to protect religious freedom and to offer relief from this oppressive RHNDA law. Madam Speaker, I reserve the balance of my time.